I used to believe that being anxious was the worst thing a man could be at his own wedding. But it turns out that's not the case. The day I became aware was the day I found myself reviewing the final expenses for my apartment while sitting at the edge of the dining table. Receipts for flights booked for Sienna's cousins, totaling $200, were displayed on the laptop's open screen like silent warnings. Customized party goodies and hotel block deposits for the rooftop after-party venue, everything in my name. Not once had I grumbled. I would never have asked Sienna to split the cost because I thought love entailed paying for things if you could. And I could. I live frugally. I invest in my logistics consulting business, which has done well for me. Correct? And I keep things quiet. That was my mistake. Being silent. It made them believe I was unimportant. Then Sienna entered the room. Leaning in, whirling in a loose ivory robe, giggling at something one of her friends had texted, she gave me a quick peck on the cheek, like tossing a coin into a wishing well, then walked to the fridge. She mentioned drinks in passing, so I added a few more names to the after-party list. Just a few folks from the past. I looked up slowly. Carter, Kellen. Strange, those two had been around for years. They'd never really harmed her, unlike Kelvin, her ex-boyfriend turned ex-husband who once fought someone at the door during her birthday party while drunk. "You invited," I began, setting the laptop aside. "Your ex-husband is coming to our wedding party?" She rolled her eyes. "It's not a wedding party," she said. "It's more of an informal, celebratory atmosphere." She didn't seem to notice that the room had gone cold. I just stared at her. No joke waiting in her throat. No grin hiding behind the words. When I finally spoke, "Come on, Malik," she groaned and waved her hand. "Grow up," she said. "Since Carter is remarried and Kellen is just there for drinks, you're acting incredibly insecure." That word, insecure, hit like a slap. Not because it was true, but because it was lazy. The easiest way to turn a man's discomfort back onto him. Like I was imagining things, rather than reacting to real disrespect. I was stunned. But before I could respond, her mother walked in. Darlene West, queen of passive-aggressive praise and backhanded advice. She carried a Bloomingdale's shopping bag and wore that smug expression that made you feel instantly small. "Poor," she remarked, barely glancing at me. "You're still complaining about the guest list regardless of your financial situation. Please, it's a party. If you don't like it, Jamie will take your place." She grinned, blinking at the memory of Sienna's younger years. "He's so charming, sweetie," she added. I stood still. But inside? Inside, something cracked, like the first fracture in a windshield, subtle but spreading. I realized then I wasn't the groom. I was a prop, a set piece in their strange little performance. Sienna leaned into her mother and laughed. "Relax," she said. A sharp, awkward, dismissive laugh meant to silence me. I said nothing, just jokes. That night I stayed up in the guest room, nodded slowly to myself, because when a man stays quiet, they don't understand he's rearranging things. Not out of sadness, but calculation. A man can endure 1,000 small cuts before he evaporates or explodes. I chose the latter. I replayed every moment, every offhand comment. Every time she made fun of my dislike of crowds while complimenting my discipline. Every time Darlene smirked at my business, asked if I typed full-time, mocked my suggestion of a small ceremony, but I always agreed to the rooftop, the champagne towers, the imported blooms. I didn't want conflict. I wanted peace. But peace, when given to people who don't respect you, only teaches them to treat you like silence. The next morning, Sienna hummed while trying on a new white cocktail dress for after the ceremony. "What do you think, sweetie?" she asked. She looked stunning, objectively beautiful, but beauty without. Kindness is like a castle without warmth. It's impressive, but unlivable. It's nice, I replied coldly. She barely noticed. Her smile flickered. Her eyes moved back to her phone. I saw the name. Carter. Maybe Kellen, too. The silence didn't come from ignorance anymore. It came from awareness. When the planning started, I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I didn't beg. I opened a fresh note on my phone, titled it, The Cost of Being the Joke, and I began recording. Not emotions, not memories, data, receipts. Guest lists, quotes, every remark that made me feel small. I took photos of the RSVP chart she left open. Screen-recorded bank transactions related to wedding spending. Highlighted Carter and Kellen's names on the shared computer. Sent myself an email titled, For later, not to expose, but to remember, to prepare. Darlene showed up the next day, with wine and centerpiece swatches. Probably assumed I'd be paying. She breezed in, said, Oh, good, you're home. I need to ask about the shuttle. Jamie's flight lands late. She winked. You remember Jamie? Sienna's old crush? I'm flying him in, she added. Sienna deserves to be surrounded by people who know her. I stared blankly. Naturally, I said. She blinked. But someone has to hold everything together, especially when the groom changes his mind. Winked again. To her, I wasn't a partner. I was a sponsor, a placeholder. That night, I stared at the Book Now screen for Santorini, our honeymoon destination. But I didn't click it. I needed one last sign. One more reason to not press that button. It came the next morning. Sienna asked me to zip up her new white dress. She looked amazing. But in the mirror, I saw her phone screen. A message from Ellen. Are you sure he won't flip? Sienna replied. Malik doesn't even see. I zipped the dress silently. She smiled at me, thinking I was clueless. I sat down beside her at the kitchen table, my usual spot. But I wasn't the usual man. What she thought was invisible was about to become the one thing none of them could ignore. She asked me to accompany her to the final venue walkthrough that evening. She was wearing the same green dress. I told her I had work. She pouted but didn't push it, which told me everything. She was only attempting to keep me close enough, not to include me. So I took one more step, to finance the illusion and go far enough not to interfere with her performance while she was away. I sent emails to every provider, the venue manager, caterer, hotel, DJ, florist, and attached copies of the executed contracts. I informed them that I required verification that my name was the only one listed on every single one of them. They responded within the hour, and I stared at those emails like they were blueprints, designs for a structure I was about to tear down, and I knew exactly how this would go. It would